The central statement of the Gettysburg Address is that the United States, as he says, have been born in the Declaration of Independence, this idea that all men might be created equal.
He said that this battle, and by implication this war, was about bringing the words of the Declaration into reality.
And when Lincoln talked about a new birth of freedom, he was really talking about a return to the ideals of those who in Philadelphia in 1787 had tried to create a government based on popular democracy, but without slavery. Lincoln had a great gift for poetry. His state papers have this almost biblical cadence.
Every word is almost perfectly chosen. There's a rhythm to the entire 2-minute speech. There's a beauty of the language. I mean, even 7 years ago, rather than just saying 87 years ago, is such a beautiful way to begin.
And it ends, of course, with the great peroration, famous passage by the government oath by and for the people. That has lasted. That has stood the test of time. It has as good a definition as we have of what a republic actually is.
All right, we just watched a history video, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about what a seminal U.S. document is before we listen to the speech. Now, all of this is taking place inside an Ed puzzle, so I hope you are taking your time and going through each part of the video. It's a 3-part video, and answering the questions that are attached. So, analyze seminal U.S. documents. Speeches, essays, and other texts that have great historical and literary significance are called seminal documents. So here are some examples. The Gettysburg Address, which we're going to be listening to today, as are George Washington's farewell address. And if those of you listening know anything about Hamilton, you're probably well aware of that one in Act 2. Franklin D. Roosevelt's Four Freedoms speech, and Martin Luther King's letter from Birmingham jail, as is his I Have a Dream speech. As you analyze the speech, look for these characteristics that can help you recognize and analyze seminal documents. Strong themes, and we're going to be talking about themes in a different document, the Declaration of Independence, in your guided questions assignment this week. So think about that. And if you need to Google themes in a speech, please do it. Otherwise, take a look at the ones that are in the blue box, and one of those might help you answer the question in your guided document. Concepts such as fairness, justice, respect, and honor. Bottom left, engaging ideas presented in an original way. And then bottom right, themes and concepts that encourage the audience to take action. Also with an author's speech, there's typically purpose and rhetoric. So an author may write a speech for one or more reasons. These reasons are called the author's purpose. Our very first, one of the questions that I'm probably going to ask in a quiz is, what is the purpose of Lincoln's speech? Why is he even giving it? Is he trying to inform? Is he trying to explain? Or is he trying to persuade people? And then to help them advance that purpose, there's typically rhetoric. Now, we're going to see a lot of repetition in this speech. And then there's also parallelism, which is a type of repetition, but it typically follows a certain grammatical pattern. Certain phrases might be repeated, but then after that phrase is repeated, there's like a different word. And they'll repeat it over and over and over. So you can see that below in Ronald Reagan's remarks to Moscow State University. The key is freedom. Freedom of thought, freedom of information, freedom of communication. So freedom of is the piece that keeps on getting repeated. But the reason why it falls into the label of parallelism is because there's a little part of it that's just changed a little bit to try to give them a rhythm or to try to pull out certain emotions in the reader. So now that we've kind of gone through some of this back information and we've had the history clip, let's go ahead and listen to the speech.
The Gettysburg Address. Abraham Lincoln. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty, and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.